This video is sponsored by Dossier. Mad scientists are overambitious and usually eccentric, but not all mad scientists are evil. On the contrary, some made discoveries that have improved our lives. Although one thing is for sure, these scientists are not afraid to push their experiments to the extremes, even if it means crossing ethical or moral boundaries. I'm Mike with List 25, and here's a list of 25 real-life mad scientists. But before we begin, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new content. Also join our Discord, and if you can, think of becoming a member. Oh, and what other crazy scientists might we have missed at the end of this list? Let us know in those comments. That being said, let's go. #25. Erwin Schrödinger. Erwin Rudolf Joseph Alexander Schrödinger was an Austrian physicist, later naturalized Irish, whose work in quantum theory yielded breakthrough results. Schrödinger came up with a wave equation that allowed scientists to calculate the wave function of a system. The form of the wave functions rules the movement of small particles in what physicists now call the Schrödinger equation, allowing them to specify how external influences modify these wave functions, also known as probability waves. #24. Henry Head. Sir Henry Head was an English neurologist and Royal Society of London Fellow. Head's claim to fame was his groundbreaking work on the sensory nerves and the network of neural structures in the brain and the rest of the body, known as the somatosensory system. The somatosensory system causes the perception of touch, pain, body position, or proprioception, and body temperature, or thermoception. Head worked with the psychiatrist William Halse Rivers for his experiments. But what made Dr. Head a real-life mad scientist was that he often used his own body to conduct his neurological work. Two disorders, the Head-Holmes syndrome and the Head-Riddoch syndrome, were named after him. And speaking of liquids in glass containers, which mad scientists are totally known for, nailed it. Do you want to smell nice? Of course you do. Who doesn't? I mean, aside from practically every attendee of any convention ever. Do you also hate paying outrageous prices for colognes or perfumes? Again, who doesn't? The smells industry, as I like to call it, starting right now, is kind of ridiculous. Did you know that some of these scents can go for hundreds of dollars for just a few ounces? That's bonkers. To that I say no more, because allow me to introduce you to Dossier. Dossier provides affordable luxury. Do you want to smell like Bleu de Chanel but don't want to pay $184? Yeah, I looked it up a couple minutes ago to see. It's $184. Well, then you need their citrus ginger scent for only $29. Or what about Dare Me? Then you do this one here, the spicy vetiver. Maybe you don't know which of the multitudes of majestic scents you think would work best for you. No worries. Just take their neat and helpful quiz to find your perfect scent. Check out the ones that I got. Want multiple scents at once so you can layer up and combine them? Well, they offer great bulk deals, up to a 25% discount and free shipping if you order 3 or more bottles. And I know, reading scent descriptions is vastly different from actually smelling them. So, what if you receive your order, and then it turns out you don't actually like the scent? Well, no worries. Dossier provides free returns and exchanges forever. They're also always adding new scents, and they love hearing suggestions from their customers on future releases. Unlike the mad scientists we've been discussing thus far, Dossier actually doesn't use any nasty chemicals, just quality French ingredients. And as an added bonus, they're also vegan and cruelty-free. No animal testing here. Sorry animals, you'll have to find another way to smell nice. So, what are you waiting for? Check out our personal link in the description below for 5% off your order now and start smelling better for less. Now back to the list. 23. Michael Persinger. Michael A. Persinger was an American-Canadian psychologist and professor. From 1971 until his death in 2018 at the age of 73, Michael Persinger was a professor of psychology at the Laurentian University of Sudbury in Greater Sudbury, Ontario, Canada. Dr. Persinger chose an unusual research area, that of parapsychological phenomena. He hypothesized a connection between our brain's temporal lobes and mystical experiences. Persinger sought scientific explanations for paranormal abilities such as clairvoyance and telepathy through his work. 22. Giovanni Aldini. Giovanni Aldini was an Italian physician from Bologna in the Emilia-Romagna region of Italy. Aldini is famous for his work on galvanism, or the generation of electric current by chemical action. In addition, he worked on constructing lighthouses, and some of his experiments aimed at preserving human life during fires. Aldini's work became internationally famous because, apart from his native Italian and Latin, he also wrote in English and French. A remarkable fact about this mad scientist is that he inspired Mary Shelley when she wrote her masterpiece, Frankenstein. 21. Charles Guthrie. At number 21, there's another psychologist, in this case the American Charles Claude Guthrie, whose work on pharmacology and physiology garnered prestige. However, Professor Guthrie was controversial for his experiments involving head transplants in human beings. His far-fetched experiments prevented him from earning the Nobel Prize. You could say that he was really ahead of his competition. 20. Albert Bandura. The Canadian-American psychologist Albert Bandura was born in 1925 and died in 2021. He was a professor of psychology at the prestigious Stanford University in California. Professor Bandura's scientific contributions included personality psychology, social cognitive theory, and therapy. His most famous experiment is the so-called Bobo doll experiment that he carried out for the first time in 1961. This experiment studied children's behavior by having minors watch an adult behaving aggressively toward a round-bottomed toy known as a Bobo doll. Bandura's work suggested that people learn to behave socially as children through observing, imitating, and then modeling the behavior of adults. 19. Wilhelm Reich. Wilhelm Reich was born in 1897 and died in 1957. An Austrian doctor of medicine and psychoanalyst, he was born in the Kingdom of Galicia, now part of Ukraine, but then part of Austria-Hungary. Reich belonged to the second generation of psychoanalysts, following the steps of his fellow Austrian Sigmund Freud. Considered today one of the most radical figures in his field, Reich was the author of several influential books, including The Function of the Orgasm, published in 1927, and The Mass Psychology of Fascism, published in 1933. After living in Europe for most of his life, Reich accepted a job at the New School of Social Research in New York in 1939. In the US, Reich became notorious for building orgone accumulators to store life energy. He died in 1957 of heart failure in a US prison where he was serving a 2-year sentence for violating an injunction from the US Food and Drug Administration against the shipment of orgone accumulators. 18. Carney Landis. Carney Landis was a graduate student at Minnesota University who, in 1924, conducted what many considered an unethical experiment designed to test the links between different emotions and facial expressions. Do people's faces change according to their feelings at any given moment? Does being afraid, in shock, or disgusted trigger specific facial expressions? Are those facial expressions universal? The method he used to obtain evidence made Carney Landis's experiment problematic. He subjected volunteers to the sight of shocking images, having them touch live electric wires, and worse, more disturbing tests. 17. Hwang Woo-suk. Hwang Woo-suk is a South Korean veterinarian born in 1953. Considered one of the most innovative scientists in stem cell research, he became controversial for his claims that he had successfully created a human clone. The claims were made in 2004 and 2005, but he was not dismissed as a professor from the Seoul National University until 2006 for, well, faking research. Hwang Woo-suk has also admitted to committing ethical violations in his stem cell research after accusations that he had used eggs from his female students and others obtained from the black market. 16. Sergei Brunkonenko. Sergei Sergeyevich Brunkonenko, lived 1860 to 1960, was a Soviet scientist whose research was crucial in heart surgery. Brunkonenko worked at the famous Research Institute of Experimental Surgery in Moscow. During the Stalinist era, his work contributed to developing open-heart surgery in the Soviet Union. The first open-heart procedure in Russia was successfully performed in 1957 by Brunkonenko's colleague Alexander Vishnevsky. 15. Louis Joylon West. An American psychiatrist, Louis Gerlon West, started his career as a professor of psychiatry at the University of Oklahoma. His most influential research includes the areas of brainwashing techniques, drug abuse, and how cults work. He was also a high-profile anti-death penalty activist. 14. Sidney Gottlieb. Sidney Gottlieb was an American chemist who became infamous for his work as head of the so-called Project MK-Ultra at the CIA. This illegal project, which ran between 1953 and 1973, focused on mind control and assassination attempts. It conducted experiments involving drugs, brainwashing, and other psychological torture methods to force confessions from individuals. 13. Max Pettenkofer. Joseph Pettenkofer, later known as Max Joseph von Pettenkofer, was a chemist and hygienist from Bavaria. His work contributed to creating sewage disposal as we now know it. But, believe it or not, before Pettenkofer's scientific work, the beneficial effects of fresh air and clean water were not widely well known. Well, at least not in the Western world. 12. Robert White. Robert White was an American neurosurgeon from Minnesota whose craziest experiments involved transplanting heads of living apes. 11. JBS Haldane. John Burdon Sanderson Haldane was a British Indian scientist known for his work in genetics and other areas. Haldane, who renounced his British citizenship in 1961 to become a citizen of India due to his Marxist ideas, is best remembered for coining the term clone and its derivatives. 10. Jose Delgado. Jose Manuel Rodriguez Delgado, better known as Jose Delgado, was originally from Malaga, Spain. He was a professor of neurophysiology at Yale University for many years before relocating to Madrid, where he created a medical school in 1975. Delgado would spend the rest of his life in his native country. Delgado's research on mind control, for which he used electrical stimulation, places him on our list. He conducted his experiments on monkeys and human beings. 9. Duncan McDougall. The Scottish scientist Duncan McDougall was the creator of the 21 grams experiment, whose results were published in 1907 when McDougall lived in Haverhill, Massachusetts. McDougall hypothesized that the human soul weighs precisely 21.3 grams. His experiments have fed the imagination not only of other scientists, but also artists. The most famous reference to his work in pop culture is the 2003 Hollywood movie 21 Grams, directed by Alejandro González Iñárritu and starring Sean Penn, Naomi Watts, and Benicio del Toro. 8. William Buckland. The English theologian, geologist, and paleontologist William Buckland was the first person in history to write a complete account of a fossilized dinosaur, which he found in Kirkdale Cave in the English county of North Yorkshire. Buckland named the dinosaur Megalosaurus. 7. Francis Crick. Francis Harry Compton Crick was an English scientist. His work as a molecular biologist allowed him to play a role in deciphering the double helix that is the structure of deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA. 6. Stubbins Firth. We owe the American doctor Stubbins Firth the causes of yellow fever, a viral disease he believed not to have been contagious. Firth was wrong in thinking that heat was the cause of yellow fever. Still, his research helped advance scientific understanding of the disease until a Cuban scientist named Carlos Finlay discovered the real reason: mosquito bites. Still, Stubbins Firth is a fantastic name. 5. Robert G. Heath. According to the American psychiatrist Robert Galbraith Heath, mental illnesses resulted from physical defects. Therefore, he thought that mental illnesses could be cured by treating the body. If that wasn't enough to classify him as a mad scientist, Robert G. Heath is infamous for his work on so-called sexual orientation conversion. Heath claimed to have converted homosexual men into heterosexuals. Luckily, scientists now discredit Heath's work. 4. Ilya Ivanov. Russian scientist Ilya Ivanov is one of the best-known biologists of Soviet times. Ivanov mostly worked in artificial insemination, and we have included him on this list for his attempts to inseminate female chimpanzees with human sperm to create a human-ape hybrid. Luckily, the experiment failed and no pregnancy resulted. 3. Jack Parsons. One of the most influential scientists in the history of the US space program is undoubtedly the American rocket engineer John Whiteside Parsons. But what makes Parsons controversial is his taste for occultism and belief in the supernatural. He even conducted rituals to invoke mythical goddesses. His life, however, was short. Parsons died at 37 from an explosion at his home laboratory. Or as Dexter would say, laboratory. 2. Paracelsus. As long as there's been science, there have also been mad scientists. And to prove it, I have placed Theophrastus von Hohenheim at number 2. Better known as Paracelsus, this Swiss physician was a true Renaissance man and an innovator. Paracelsus is responsible for many of the medical advances of his time and is often nicknamed the father of toxicology. Being also a philosopher, an alchemist, and a theologian, Paracelsus may not fit our contemporary idea of a scientist. Still, his contributions to different scientific fields such as chemistry and toxicology have been vital in further developing these disciplines. 1. Nikola Tesla. Coming in at number 1 is the Serbian-American inventor whose name has been popularized by a well-known automotive company. I'm of course referring to John A. Smartcar. Sorry. Nikola Tesla, whose futuristic vision and hard work in mechanical and electrical engineering have left an indelible mark on science. Tesla came to the US in 1884, becoming an American citizen a few years later in 1891. Tesla's most famous invention is a coil that can transmit electricity wirelessly. This invention is now known as the Tesla coil. And fun fact, the Tampa Bay Lightning actually have 2 Tesla coils in their arena, Amalie Arena, and it goes off. Oh, it's really cool. Check it out. Check out Tampa Bay Lightning Tesla coil. It's really, really cool. So once again, are there any crazy scientists we missed? Well, let us know in the comments below. And as always, I love you guys. Thank you so much. And I'll see you next time. Peace.
Enjoying our lists? Be sure to click that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss out on new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Share them with your friends and help us consistently conciliate curiosity. And if you want even more lists, check out these videos here or just head to our website at list25.com.